started, I'm really delighted to introduce my three panelists. I've got Randi Davis, who's with the UN Development Program, UNDP. I've got Thierry Lucas from UN Environment, and Ms. Lorena Aguilar, who's the Global Gender Specialist and Director for Governance at IUCN. All right, got kind of my cheat sheets here. So let me start with a question that will bring us to why you're in the Spotlight studio. So Spotlight is a 500 million euro initiative that is set to eliminate, or is aiming to eliminate, violence against women and girls. So what I'd like to know first, what brings you to this panel that's about eliminating violence against women and girls? What is the link between climate change and ending violence against women and girls?
Well, maybe I'll just start by saying that violence against women and girls is the basic, eliminating it is the basic prerequisite for achieving any form of equality and rights. So without even looking at the linkage, we have to look at the fact that if we don't do something about pervasive violence, women can't enjoy any of their social, political, economic rights. They can't be participants in climate change, in the economy, or in society fully. So it's the basic. But there is a clear link also between what is going on with our climate today and the violence that women and girls are facing. So as they have to go further to fetch water or meet household energy needs, they're put into more precarious and vulnerable situations. As they have to, face the advent of climate's impacts in terms of disasters, we know their vulnerabilities to violence increases. So there are direct, evidence-based linkages that we can point to showing that vulnerabilities of women to violence have increased because of the impacts of climate, and we need to do something about it.
Great. Do either?
I agree fully with Randi, but we need to have a little bit more of evidence, and that's something that we're doing in IUCN. For the first time ever, we're producing a document on the linkages of gender-based violence and the environment. So what are the linkages between, and the violence that women rangers are suffering? What happened when you cut the access to natural resources and the only thing left to the women to negotiate is her body and the body of their girls and their boys to have access to resources? What happened during disasters? We were talking like a month ago to LGBTQI community in which they're not allowed to go to the refugees areas because they're sick and they're going to get the sickness that you have. And we're seeing this throughout the world, but there is a need to systematize more this, and hopefully by October of this year, we're collaborating with UNDP, because the linkage between gender-based violence and environment, beyond the walking, beyond the distance, it's something that we need to put out. I cannot leave behind, and today being the 5th of June, that is the Day of the Environment, to bring together in memory the amount of women that had been killed, especially in Latin America, as environmental defenders. So today, in the name of all of them, we have to say this needs to stop, this violence, because these women were only protecting the planet for all of us.
I think these are such important points. The Spotlight is actually, the orientation in Latin America is just around femicide, and underpinning all of the sustainable development goals is this idea of leaving no one behind. And we need to remember that those impacted by climate change, those who are defending environmental rights, those who have been stripped of land rights because of widowhood, are critically important for us to also consider in this programming. Thierry, your thoughts on this?
Well, indeed, I'd like to comment on what my colleague said, on giving one particular example, because climate change is happening now. If we take the example of Nepal, for example, the far western province, climate change has impact on the availability of land at the top level and the possibility for the people to grow their land. And these are the women who are growing their lands. And what's happening in Nepal is that those women have to move from the top mountains now to the valley. But in the valley, you already have existing communities, and you have conflict. and you have difficulties about livelihoods. And of course, it's always the women who suffer more from those conflicts. And they are affected by that. Nepal is a conflict where a country where you have 97% of the women experiencing gender-based violence during their life. It's huge. So if we don't tackle both issues at the same time, we cannot manage the climate change. So that's really important that we integrate more, as you said, this issue on gender in all the work we do on climate change to tackle it on adaptation and also mitigation.
Yeah, I think this key message around integration and the need to address these two issues in tandem and how they're so intertwined is really critical. Let me ask you, what do you think is the reason we don't often associate women with climate change? And I think that there's a real fallacy there from what I'm hearing from all of you. So what happens when we kind of put women at the forefront of climate change?
We beat it. We can. 70%, for example, of the decisions that I make at consumption within the households are made by women worldwide. And if this is changing the way that we have been doing things, these are a force to reckon with. We cannot forget the 3.8 billion women in the world that are part of the solution of climate change. We're not only the poor, vulnerable ones. We're not only the ones that are sitting on the side waiting for someone to come and help us. We are also the power that can change this world. And let me tell you something, because a lot of us here today we call ourselves feminists. And we also need to embrace climate change, especially the women from the north, because if you think that your daily life is affecting and causing the death of millions of women in other parts of the world, you need to rethink what a feminist is.
Yeah.
So a feminist perspective to climate change is fundamental and necessary.
It's one of the most powerful statements I've heard since I've been here. Thank you.
I'd like to add also on one point, because I think what is really important is leveraging the finance to tackle climate. I mean, we know the 100 billion gap we have every year, and what you said is fully right. Where is the money? The money is in households. So the money is on changing the way we consume. And that's why women are so important, because they are the ones deciding. But also women are so important on passing the message. Women are the one educating the children. So conveying those messages to the next generation is really important. But I think what is also difficult to tackle is probably also a big chunk of money comes from private investment. How will we have those private investment for women and girls? Because it's not there yet. And that's where we should think about, because ODA and the money we spend, to think about that, how we can leverage this money, the big private investment, to go to women, because we know we have gaps on that.
It's such a critical point. Randi.
Well, I'll just maybe do the flip side. We know that women are out there managing their land, managing water resources, managing natural resources, and we're losing that knowledge. We're not benefiting from it if we're not investing in them and supporting them and learning what they already know to be the best practices. So we actually need to benefit from what's already happening. We need to do our job a lot smarter.
I really want to appreciate your time. The three of you have done a tremendous job of really clearly linking and grounding this issue in what we're all here to talk about, which is equality of women, ending violence against women and girls. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your powerful, powerful messages. I'm going to take them back with me to Spotlight as well. I appreciate your time. Thank you.